Keir Starmer has taken a stunning new stance on the migrant crisis, likening people smugglers to terrorists and calling on the UK and Europe to take a hardline approach to dismantle these criminal networks. Speaking at the Interpol conference in Glasgow, Starmer warned that people smuggling rings represent a grave national security threat, exploiting vulnerable migrants for profit, and he insists it's time to treat these smugglers as enemies of the state. Starmer isn't just making bold statements, he's pairing his words with major action, signing new international agreements and committing millions of pounds to turn the tide on human trafficking. But first, let's see the moment that has everyone talking. Here's a clip of Starmer's bold comparison, where he brands smuggling networks as terrorists.
Then we will struggle to bring these criminals to justice. And that, in a sense, is my message here today. People smuggling should be viewed as a global security threat similar to terrorism. We've got to combine resources, share intelligence and tactics, and tackle the problem upstream, working together to shut down the smuggling routes. Now, we do that with terrorism. When I was the Director of Public Prosecutions, it was my personal mission to smash the terrorist gangs.
There it is. Starmer is drawing a hard line, insisting that this issue is no longer just a humanitarian crisis, but a security threat that requires serious, coordinated action. And he's not stopping at strong language. Starmer has signed 3 major new agreements with Serbia, North Macedonia and Kosovo, aiming to block smuggling routes from the Western Balkans, a region that saw nearly 100,000 migrants pass through last year. According to Starmer, these agreements mark a major upgrade in Europe's approach, putting the UK at the forefront of the fight against illegal migration by targeting smugglers at the source. Alongside these agreements, Starmer has announced a massive £150 million investment to tackle the UK's border security and counter people smuggling. This funding will go toward creating a new Border Security Command, a specialised force aimed at tracking and disrupting smuggling networks before they reach UK shores. Starmer is calling this investment a victory for humanity, promising that it will help save lives and deliver justice to those profiting from human desperation. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper has voiced her support, calling the Western Balkans a key battleground in this fight. According to Cooper, the new agreements with Serbia, North Macedonia and Kosovo will allow UK authorities to track smuggling routes, gather intelligence and target key points in the trafficking network. She insists that the message is clear. Smugglers will soon have nowhere to hide. Cooper argued that by working directly with Balkan countries, the UK is taking the fight to the source, breaking the criminal networks at their roots. Unsurprisingly, Starmer's bold rhetoric has drawn passionate reactions on both sides of the debate. Supporters see his comparison to terrorism as a strong, much-needed stance, arguing that people smuggling is a brutal, well-funded operation that deserves a hardline response. Many believe that Starmer's direct approach will save lives, prevent dangerous channel crossings, and secure Britain's borders in a way that previous leaders have failed to do. But critics are raising alarms over Starmer's approach. Human rights advocates argue that branding smugglers as terrorists could lead to an overreach in immigration policy, potentially criminalising asylum seekers who are fleeing war and persecution. By escalating the language, they warn, Starmer may risk creating a political climate that treats all migrants as security threats. Some fear that his comparison could result in policies that ignore the human rights of refugees and make it even harder for genuine asylum seekers to find safe haven in the UK. In Parliament, opposition MPs have questioned whether Starmer's £150 million investment is the best use of resources. Critics argue that this money would be better spent on improving the UK's asylum system, which is overwhelmed by backlogs and delays. They claim that focusing on enforcement alone may overlook the root causes of migration, missing an opportunity to offer real support to those in need. But for Starmer, this isn't just about UK policy. He's determined to bring Europe along with him. On Thursday, he will chair the European Political Community (EPC) meeting, a forum of 47 nations, where he's planning to make migration the central topic of discussion. Starmer is urging European leaders to join the UK in a collective crackdown on smuggling networks, arguing that the crisis cannot be solved by any single nation alone. In his view, a united European approach is essential to end the criminal exploitation of migrants. Several European leaders, including those from the Western Balkans, are reportedly supportive of the UK's strong stance. Serbia, North Macedonia, and Kosovo have all welcomed the agreements with the UK, viewing them as a step toward curbing the criminal networks that cross their own borders. However, Starmer's push for a European coalition may face resistance from other EU members who are wary of adopting such an aggressive stance, fearing it could lead to even stricter border policies. The £150 million commitment has sparked heated debate across the political spectrum. Supporters argue that the investment is crucial to strike at the heart of the smuggling networks, claiming it's about time the UK leads the charge in Europe's migration response. They believe that the new Border Security Command will provide a long-term solution by tackling smuggling at its roots, making Britain safer while protecting vulnerable migrants. But critics argue that the hefty funding for enforcement could be misdirected. They claim the money would be better allocated to addressing the UK's asylum backlogs and improving support systems for legitimate refugees. By focusing so heavily on enforcement, they warn, Starmer could miss a chance to address the systemic challenges facing the migration crisis, potentially creating more problems in the future. The public reaction has been intense and divided. Many Britons are applauding Starmer's hardline stance, seeing it as a welcome shift in leadership and a commitment to tackle the crisis head-on. Supporters are embracing his comparison of smugglers to terrorists, believing it accurately reflects the ruthless nature of these operations and the risks they pose to British society. However, some members of the public share the concerns voiced by critics. They worry that treating smugglers as terrorists could create a slippery slope, potentially leading to policies that punish those who are simply trying to escape violence and persecution. These critics argue that Starmer's language risks demonizing all migrants, making it harder for genuine asylum seekers to find the refuge they desperately need. As he heads into the EPC meeting, Starmer faces a critical moment. He's putting the UK's weight behind this issue, but whether he can rally European support remains to be seen. If he succeeds in building a coalition, he could cement his position as a decisive leader on migration, setting the UK apart as a force against people smuggling. But if his push fails, critics at home and abroad may seize the moment to call his approach too aggressive and question the impact of his comparison to terrorism. For Starmer, this is a high-stakes gamble. If his strategy works, he could be credited with saving lives and protecting Britain's borders. If it doesn't, the criticism could be harsh, with accusations that he took an unnecessarily hardline approach that may have complicated the migration crisis further. For more updates on Starmer's anti-smuggling strategy and every twist in UK politics, hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and stay tuned. This story is only just beginning, and we'll bring you every explosive development as it happens.